In the news this week, Solidarity Park protests turned physical after police moved on two protesters.
A special report into PCYC's successful youth crime prevention programs and why they need your help.
This is the Evening News with Ivan Leung and Danielle Staniskov.
Good evening. There were confrontations between police and demonstrators after two activists from the No Room for Racism group have been wrestled to the ground by the police during a rally at Solidarity Park on Sunday.
I think it was pretty clear that we came here to assemble peacefully, to demonstrate peacefully, and the police were the ones who instigated the violence.
The No Room for Racism group accused Reclaim Australia of demonising Muslims in the country. Meanwhile, Reclaim Australia was protesting against Sharia law being installed in Australia.
We're not left-wing, we're not right-wing, we're none of that. We are normal, everyday Australians speaking out against the dangers of Sharia law.
In other stories this week, after the 13-hour siege ended in Bunbury, questions were being raised about the government's procedures of handling patients who suffer mental illness. The man at the centre of the saga, hostage-taker David Charles Batty, has been at large after absconded from Greyland Hospital in June last year.
After almost 13 hours worth of standoff in Bunbury CBD, the hostage siege ended with 2 shots. The incident began at 6:20 p.m. when 53-year-old David Charles Batty allegedly took a man as hostage and made a claim to police that he had explosives. The hostage wasn't released until 6:45 a.m. before police shot Mr Batty with 2 rounds of beanbag bullets.
It's certainly been a large coordinated effort. We've had a number of specialist services down from Perth to assist us.
Meanwhile, Bunbury City Mayor Gary Brennan said the siege is an isolated incident.
Bunbury is a very safe, sound city and has been and will continue to be so.
However, the opposition have raised questions towards the government's ability to handle mentally ill patients and inmates.
What you've got to wonder is whether or not forensic mental health, whether the people who deal with this very challenging area of mentally ill offenders are well resourced enough, and I think the question's got to be answered by the government because it looks like they aren't.
David Charles Batty has appeared in court facing charges, including the Kings Park siege back in 2012. Darren McElwain, WAMN News.
To other news, an estimated $12,000 worth of equipment was stolen from the Police and Community Youth Centre in Gosnells. The incident has caused a disruption to the centre's most successful program that keeps the wandering youths off the streets.
Do you have any tools, spare bicycle or parts that you don't need? The Gosnells Police and Community Youth Centre is appealing to the public for donations after $12,000 worth of equipment was stolen from the PCYC.
They had donated a whole heap of bikes the week before, and the bikes that were stolen were actually their own, the ones they were working on for themselves. So they were heartbroken.
The equipment was for their youth engagement program, Full Throttle, which is a weekly session that involves getting 12 to 15 young participants off the streets to build bicycles instead.
It makes our children that maybe would be wandering around on the streets on a Thursday night come to somewhere where it's safe and build up relationships and new networks with others.
The program has been running since November last year and has achieved considerable success until the recent setback, which left participants heartbroken because their bikes and tools have been stolen.
We've been named as a finalist for the Constable Care Child Safety Awards, which will be announced on the 1st of August, so we're really excited about that. It demonstrates that the programs like this are worthwhile and they are making a difference in the community.
Helene, Fung, WAMN News.
And the footnote to that story, if you want to make a donation, you can visit your nearest PCYC centres. Details on their website. That's www.wapcyc.com.au.
The opposition promised to introduce new laws to protect frontline civil servants if they have been assaulted by prison inmates. The new legislation will allow test results to be obtained quickly after a prison guard or medical staff is bitten or spat on by inmates. Currently, prison officers have to wait for 6 months to receive blood test results to determine whether they have contracted any diseases such as HIV or hepatitis.
Prison officers and health professionals deserve exactly the same protections that police officers currently enjoy. And that means peace of mind for those people working in the workforce.
Families of the 38 Australian victims killed on the MH17 flight crash gathered at Canberra this week to remember their loved ones. 298 passengers and crew perished after their plane was shot down in the war zone last year. Amongst the attendants, Fatima Jasinski's parents, George and Angela. In a statement, they said the incident is a global tragedy. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Tony Abbott and opposition leader Bill Shorten together paid tribute to the families and friends during the memorial.
There is a lead scare in Hong Kong this week after local politicians expose lead water pipelines have been used in several public housing projects. 4 samples taken from one of the estates shows the water contains more lead than tolerable standards set by the World Health Organization. It's alleged that the contractor from China used lead materials when welding the pipelines. The Housing Department confirmed the report but maintained that the water is still safe for consumption.
And finally tonight, companion animal shelters will receive 2 more years worth of funding from the state government. A total of $200,000 will be given to 6 organisations that provide accommodation care for domestic pets, keeping at least 10,000 stray cats and dogs off the streets.
The funding is to help that they can keep maintaining that process of what we call picking up the unwanted animals in our community and hopefully rehousing them where they can.
It means that we can keep our ranger on the road. We actually use those specific funds for our ranger service, which goes and collects stray and abandoned cats from right around the metropolitan area.
Makes you smile.
I want a golden cat.
Yeah, I know that. And those are the stories you need to know this week.
We have more news on our website until we see you again next Sunday. Good night.
Good night.